Hi there. Welcome to the Odeon. This is another Tales of the Odeon. I'm Chris, proprietor of this fine establishment. We're having a very warm, dry winter so far. That's Nevada for you. Extreme, unpredictable, and never quite the same year to year. Just a couple winters ago, many of us were snowed into our homes for days, some without power or heat. In my home, we are fortunate enough to have a wood stove. We hauled in buckets of snow to melt by the fire, cooked on the hearth, and I rigged a car battery to a solar charger and inverter so we could keep our phones powered. That kept the kids pretty happy. We got through it with a little luck and a little ingenuity. And looking back, that stretch of hard weather, well, it's become one of my favorite winters. Our family together, gathered around the fire for days, with nowhere to be but at home with each other. Of course, Nevada doesn't always bury us in snow. Some winters are more like this one. In fact, 1921 was famously warm. On December 12, 1921, Reno hit a record high of 69 Fahrenheit. But another record year, 1889, earned its place in history for the opposite reason: cold and snow, a lot of snow. December 89 is remembered as one of the harshest winters in Nevada's recorded history. The Sierras reportedly piled up as much as 26 feet in places. Well, you can imagine what that meant for Virginia City. Snowed in, cut off from supplies, and depended on transport that suddenly couldn't reach the mountain town. With trains stalled, people began to suffer. Then Dayton remembered something most of us still take pride in today. There was another way to help: the Sutro Tunnel. I've heard many versions of this story, of Dayton saving Virginia City by sending potatoes through the tunnel. The account that I'm about to read is one of the closest to what really happened. It comes from Pioneer, Nevada, published in 1951 by Herald's Club. Snowfall was early and heavy in December 1889. In Nevada, stockmen were jubilant at the end of a dry spell, but the snow continued, and by mid-January, train service at all Nevada points was at a standstill. From Wyoming west, the country was in the grip of a disastrous winter. Sheep and cattle starved and froze. Trains were stalled, the Sierras were blocked as fires in the snow sheds had left the tracks exposed. A herd of wild horses huddled and were frozen in their tracks near Virginia City. Cattle losses were 50%. A band of 400 sheep froze in one night in Reese River. Everywhere, mail was carried by sleigh and finally on snowshoes. Antelope bands starved at wells, and in Reno, it was 42 below zero. One family drove 500 cattle to Elko by sleigh, but lost all the cattle and barely escaped with their lives. All mines in Virginia City were closed as snow blocked the ore tracks, and food supplies ran so low the town was in danger of starvation. Finally, ranchers near Dayton ran sleigh loads of potatoes to the mouth of the Sutro Tunnel. The potatoes were loaded into ore cars, and underground trains hauled them to the CNC shaft. Tons of the spuds were lifted to the surface in Virginia City amid the cheers of the populace. In Reno, the harassed Southern Pacific was caring for 600 unwilling passengers who were stranded, and the yards were jammed with snowbound trains waiting to get over the Sierras. For weeks, the V&T, Carson, Colorado, and Eureka and Palisade railways had been snowbound. The roof of Piper's Opera House fell in under 6 feet of snow. The 600 guests of the Southern Pacific at Reno petitioned for free rides back to Ogden and a detour through the southwest to the coast. The railroad stalled until finally, on January 30th, the tracks over the Sierras were cleared, and 12 locomotives began blasting on their whistles, calling passengers from hotels, saloons, and other points of local interest. Soon, mobs of passengers jammed the Reno platform and filled the street as they hauled out baggage and loaded up. 6:30 in the afternoon, the first of a long series of trains chugged out. It was a scene of great excitement, equaled only by the great Reno fire, and still later by the great Reno flood. Meanwhile, the rest of the state dug itself out. Many cattle and sheep outfits were broken. Bodies of animals littered the range for miles. Commercial life was almost at a standstill. The thaw continued, and most stopping were sick. Another week or so would have ruined the entire state. It had no real parallel in Nevada history until the dramatic winter of the Haylands many years later. Well, I hope you enjoyed that short story. Subscribe to hear more, or come on into the Odeon to have a drink and hear a story in person.